So to answer your question, Eunice, yes, we had a class yesterday. We went over a couple of the installation of Bootstrap and a couple of the components and also the typography, the grid system of Bootstrap. And today we're going to continue with more components. And tomorrow it's going to be like a full project, putting everything together. And usually the class is from 7 to 10 on the daily basis. So today going to be 7 to 10. Tomorrow also is going to be 7 to 10. We got 2 breaks, usually at 7:50 and 8:50. That's if you're the first day here. But we're going to go over how you can configure it again as well. So if you missed yesterday, not a big deal. You can, I think the video was recorded. You can check the recording from yesterday's video. Okay, anybody have a question from yesterday class? Okay, so let me share my screen. And I have here a folder where this folder is the codes that we developed yesterday or the class notes. I'm just going to create another one here, call it Bootstrap 2. And we're using Visual Studio Code. So I'm probably going to open this folder with Visual Studio Code. You can install Visual Studio Code. You will see the installation link in the class Slack channel. You open it. It's very simple to install it. And I have a very simple empty folder right here. And I can close this. And also let me share a live link if anybody wants to get a snippets of the codes that we're going to develop today. I'm going to be pasting that in the class channel. Okay, so let me show you an extension that you might be interested in. I highly don't encourage that you use the extension right away. It's better to try to write the classes yourself, write the components yourself, but there's an extension in Visual Studio Code that help you create snippets in Bootstrap. And here we go. That's the name of the snippet, Bootstrap 5 quick snippets. Even if you type in Bootstrap, you will have multiple snippets that you can use. Like the first one here is Bootstrap version 4. We don't want version 4. We're looking for version 5, and I have it installed here. And it will walk you through how to use it. You just type in B5. So for example, if I create an index.html, and I type in PS5, and notice that you have multiple components here. If you want the alert, if you want the accordion, if you want, for example, the card, if you want to create a boilerplate with all the CDNs, you don't want to go and get the CDNs, copy them. You have the Bootstrap 5 dash and the $, and that will create a boilerplate for you. And if you press enter, you'll notice that this code is generated for you. It's a simple HTML skeleton where you have the title of the page, you have the meta for the viewport, and this is very, very important if you're building a responsive web page to have this meta tag in your head. That's actually what make your application responsive in mobile devices. You will have the CDN for Bootstrap 5 for the CSS, and you have the scripts for the JavaScript component from Bootstrap. And you have a header, main, and footer. You can remove this. But you get a nice boilerplate for your application. You don't have to write everything from the scratch. Again, after you install the extension, you type in PS5 and that dash, and it will give you, if you just type in PS5, and you will have all the components listed here, and it will give you quick snippets that you can edit them really quickly. For example, I created this boilerplate here. Bootstrap. I can remove. And in my body here, I can do PS5 dash, let's say if I want to have a button. So you have a button here, multiple buttons. You can have a block level button. You can have a form. You can have, for example, card. And you can have a card, like a default card. And if you select default card, you will get the code with all the classes for a card. And if you open that with the live server, you should see our card right here. But of course, you need to update the image. Okay, so it's a very nice tool, but I don't recommend it, especially if you just new to Bootstrap. You want to get familiar with these classes to memorize them, to know that you can able to add a footer for the card, get familiar with the classes. Okay, I'm just going to use it to get the CDNs. And probably not going to even, yeah. Notice that Bootstrap required 2 JavaScript, Popper.js, and the Bootstrap minim.js. Okay, so I just want to show you this small snippet tool. And now let's open Bootstrap web page and see what other components that we can work with. Of course, there is multiple components that would require the JavaScript library from Bootstrap. So let's take a look at them. We already covered the navigation bar yesterday, and navigation bar still using the JavaScript component, because when you go to minimum or minimize the screen, you will have the navigation bar collapsed, and to click on it and to toggle the view of the navigation bar, that's actually requiring the JavaScript. So if you search for Bootstrap 5, that will take you right to the documentation, and you can copy the CSS component, CDN, and you can copy the JavaScript. Here they have a bundle for both. Actually, I'm going to use the bundle. So I will remove that. And I can add the bundle to my head, actually. And I can format the document. Good. So this is going to be my boilerplate, and I can copy it to multiple files. Now let's take a look at the components. And let's go see what is the components that we didn't cover from top to bottom. So let's take a look at the accordion and how to create an accordion. And you see here, the accordion actually would require JavaScript to have this nice smooth accordion. And if you have FAQ section in your page, you probably want to use this accordion. You will have the question, and then you're going to have the answer here. How it works, the accordion uses the collapse internally to make it collapsible to render the accordion. So you need to have a class with the accordion, and then you start wrapping all the items individually. So you have a div here, and this is the first item, so it's the accordion item. Then you have the accordion header, which is the header that you see right here that you can click on it. And this is the header that when you click on it, it's actually going to toggle and view the body of the accordion. So it consists from accordion header and accordion body. So the header mainly is a button, so because it's clickable, and also when you hover over it, you want to be able to see this pointer cursor. So you use a button and you give it a class of accordion button. You see here, accordion item. The item have a header, and the header is consist for a button. You have the JavaScript component here. And this component use, as I mentioned that in the yesterday class, that all the JavaScript or the way that you use the JavaScript library from Bootstrap, you pass everything as attributes to the component, and they all start with data-ps. So data-ps, and you want to toggle this header, and you select the type of toggling. You want to toggle it as a collapse to be collapsible, And now you select the target. So mainly most of them, they're going to be data BS toggle, data BS target. That's the two attributes you need to get familiar. Target, you're actually pinpointing at a content that you want to make it collapsible. In that case, the body, that what you want to make it collapsible. The body here, it should be wrapped with accordion collapse, and then dash show. So you see here you have multiple class. Okay, so let's actually create a simple accordion using Bootstrap. So .html, and I can copy the boilerplate, paste it here, Bootstrap, accordion. I'm inside my body here. I can start create my accordion, but I'm going to have a container wrapper. So I will have .container, and that will create a div with a class container. You press enter. I have a div with a class container. Then I need a wrapper with the class accordion. And now in my accordion here, I'm going to start with the very first item in this accordion. Accordion item. So that's the very first item here. And let's say first item. You can add some comments for yourself. And as we mentioned, the accordion consists of header, or each item consists of a header and a body. So I will start by adding h2, because you want the title of this header to be viewed with the styles of h2 or whatever h3. You can put the styling whatever you want. I want an h2 to be accordion dash header. And this header will be consist of a button. So it's a clickable button, because you want, when you click this header, you want to show the body. So I will have a button here, and it will take the class of accordion button. And we can add anything here inside the button. Let's say, let's make a simple FAQ. How many days is the mini bootstrap boot camp ? And if you try to render this right now, let's see how it's going to look. Okay, here we go. We have the header, we have this button, and you get automatically this icon. And this is the only item that we have right here. We can push it down a little bit by adding the margin top 5. And that will push it a little bit, add some margin at the top here. That's looking good so far, but we don't have the body, because we didn't add the body here, and we didn't connect the header to the body to show the content of the body. So this is going to be my next step. Let me actually put it like this. So after the h2, this is the header. We have the body. And for the body, you need to wrap it with a collapse, because the body will be collapsible. So you need to collapse. And it's going to be the accordion collapse section. Okay. Now, let me put this a little bit like this. What I want is to connect my button here with this part. So I give an ID here. You can call this ID anything. So I'm going to call it question or answer 1. And the way that you want to put the JavaScript here, you put the, data, Bootstrap, and you set the target when the user click on this button. You want to target this section. So you put the ID here, which is answer 1. And also you need to identify the Bootstrap. What type of, is it going to be collapse? Is it going to be toggling? Actually, we're doing a collapse. And as you can see here, the accordion collapse. So data BS dot toggle type. And you will notice that here we should type in collapse. That's it. Now we configure the 2 parts together. If you save that right now, you see now that it's actually moving up and down because now you connect it, but this div is empty. They have nothing inside it. You need a wrapper, and you can say accordion body, and accordion body here will add the padding and the margin required for your text. And let's say that the boot camp, you can add actually a paragraph. The mini Bootstrap boot camp will be 3 days, something like that. And you can add multiple paragraphs, like we can add a lorem, which is dummy text, view word wrap. So now I click here and I see the content of this header. Click again, you hide it. Nice. So this is the first item, and you can add multiple items. You can actually copy this item. We format document. So this is my accordion here, 2 divs. They get closed right here. I will copy the first item. And to copy anything in the Visual Studio Code, you press Shift, Alt, and the arrow key down, and it will copy it down. And if I save that, now you have 2. And both of them, they get collapsed together because we have the same ID. So we need to edit the second one here. Like, for example, what is full stack? Okay, and now this is going to be answer 2. And we change the ID here to answer 2. And we can leave it with the dummy text right here. And now when you open what is the full stack, you'll see the answer right here. When you open how many days, or the answer for this question be here. But notice that both of them will be open at the same time, or you can actually expand them and collapse them. And you can add as many items as you want, and all the items should be wrapped with the overall accordion. Okay, to be more specific, you can add the type to be a button. But anyway, it's going to be a button. You can also add, for this dev, show. And if you add show, that means initially or by default, it will be shown. So it will be expanded by default. If you remove it, that means it will be collapsed. But if you add a show, it will view it. Okay. So you can have also the show class to your accordion collapse. Okay, so we now created simple accordion. You can have an accordion without no border. In order to do that, you add an extra class here, accordion flush, and it's going to be flushed to your background. That means it's not going to have any border. So all you need to do is just here you have the accordion. This is, you have the wrapping border here. You can do accordion, flush, and when you do that, the border is removed. Okay, so that's another. It depends on what you're trying to do. If you want to have it flushed with the background, definitely you can use this class, which is the accordion flush. Always open. So omit the data PS parent. We didn't add this. We added the target, the collapse. Let's go back to the first example. Here, collapsed, Stabine, accordion, body. Yep. Toggle, toggle, always open. Okay. We already didn't add the data PS parent, and that's why they will be always open, as you can see. But if you want them to collapse, like for example, if you take a look at this one, this is behaving a little bit different. It will only show one at a time. It's not similar to the one that we have. We can collapse both of them or expand both of them at the same time. Let's see why the different here. In this example, we have the item, we have the header, we have the button, toggle, collapse target. The area expansion here is not important. Collapse. It's right here. Data PS parent. Because I didn't add this one, the data PS parent, I have the flexibility to expand each one individually, and both of them was going to be expanded together. But if you don't want that behavior and you want only one accordion to show every time, not both of them to be expanded, you can add the data PS parent. And the data PS parent here is pointing to the accordion example, where the accordion example is your actual accordion. So if you give this accordion here, which I have the accordion, I'm going to keep the flush so you're familiar with that class. You give it an ID, and I can call it main or FAQ. Doesn't matter what you give it the ID is. Now, after that, you add inside the collapse here, data PS parent. So inside my collapse, I add data PS parent, and you point to the parent accordion, which is going to be the FAQ. So FAQ. And you have to do that for every single item. So we'll get back here to this body or to the collapse section and save that. And now if you get back to the example, we see this one. Now we try to open the second one, it will hide the other one back. And notice that you get out of the box these icons, which dynamically will change when you hide and show any of the accordion item, which is pretty cool. Okay. And that's pretty much it. Now I'll list you all the SAS if you want to customize them, but that's a little bit advanced to get the source code of the Bootstrap and make change or dealing with the source code from Bootstrap. Okay. Now let's go for the alerts. Alerts, it's a very simple component to give you alerts, and it's very nice if you want to show some notifications to the user. For example, you want to put them in the top top right of your page. For example, if the user did an error, you want to show him a nice notification. And to create an alert, you just do alert, and then alert only will give you the padding and the sizing here, the margins. But then you have to select the color of the alert. It's going to be alert-primary, and then you can put any text inside it. Okay, let's create a couple alerts. Can copy my boilerplate here and paste it right here. Bootstrap alert. And I also will have a container. And I can have a paragraph. Let's add margin top 5. I can have a paragraph that have the class alert. And I can do alert primary, similar to the bind. You do PTN and then PTN with a color. And then you can write here a simple primary alert. And if you save that, you can close, you can open this page with the live server. There we go. We get a simple alert where the background with color of primary. You can change the text color, and we learned that yesterday. We can do text success. That will make the text green. Here we go. The text is green. We can do font weight bold. That will make it bold text. We can add a shadow to our alert, and you'll notice that you'll get a shadow. So you can reuse all the classes that we covered yesterday as well. So let's create a couple more alerts. So let's add a P alert danger. And probably you want to show that if you have an error and say alert. Can copy down. We can have warning. That's if you want to show a warning to the user. And we can have a success to show a success message. Okay. And you can have info, light and dark, and so on. That's for the alert, simple alert. Sometimes you want to add a link inside your alert. You can use the alert-link, and that will make the link look as the following. So you have the alert link as well, class. You can have an alert header, which is an H4 if you want to have a header. You can add icons in Bootstrap, which is going to be very, very nice. And to get icons in Bootstrap, you click in the icons, and you will notice that the icons is a separate installation. So to use the Bootstrap icons is a separate installation. So you can search any icons you want for here. So for example, I want to use, let's say, error or stop, exception, success, or done. So you have multiple icons. Again, in order to use any of these icons, if you like an icon, for example, I like this icon to make it an alert to the user to show him that everything is okay. And I can click on it, and it will give you what is the classes that you need for these icons. So you can either, and it will give you like examples. You can put it inside a heading. You can put it inside a button. It will also give you the SVG for the icon if you want to use the SVG. Give you the Unicode if you want to use the Unicode, but I think the easiest implementation will be the icon classes. But in order to use it, as I mentioned, you need to get this library. So you can copy the CDN here. And this is a separate CDN for the icons. So I can go right here after the Bootstrap CSS file. I will add the link for the icons, which is also a CSS file. Now, in my success alert here, I want to use an icon. So I can click on this icon, which is this icon. I can copy this tag, which is an I tag for an icon that have some classes to show the icon this way. And I can add simply a span. Or actually, I don't need a span. I can put the I, then I'm going to add a span. I'll log in. Let's see how this is going to look like. So I get the icon right here. And with this icon, you can control the size of the icon by the font size. So for example, here, I think font size, I can increase the font size with FS, and I have, you see here, Visual Studio Code actually help you because it's reading the Bootstrap minimum CS. And I know that font size is a utility, and it will show you what is the available sizes from 1 all the way to 6. So I will select the largest size. And since you're going to change the font size, notice that the icon will be much bigger. Actually, it's not getting bigger. Here we go, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so you decrease the number, we'll make it bigger. 6, that's the smallest. 5, yeah, let's do 1. So I want to get like a big icon. Okay. If you're familiar with the CSS flex, you can use flex here as well. I can make this paragraph as a flex container, and simply by adding display dash flex, because D is short for display. So you can do D block, D align, D grid, and I want to display it as flex. And since you turn this to a flex container, and I have 2 items, and I can align items center, because I want to center them right next to each other. And now they are centered. They have the same center. And simply I can add a space here after the icon by margin end. Let's say size 2. Or I can control margin end 3. And now you have a nice message or notification with an icon. And you can decrease here. Okay. If you want to change the color, you can do text color or text danger, and that will change the icon color. Can make it light, dark, any color that you want. Let's do info, something like that. Okay, so that's how you can add icons in Bootstrap. You need, it's require a different library or a different CDN. You need to import it. So that's how you, here they're using the SVG. We can get the icon and copy the SVG, and they show you a couple examples down here to show notification with some icons. This missing, and this is a nice feature, because if you're going to show a notification, you want to be able to let the user click and remove it from the DOM. And to have this feature, it definitely would require JavaScript. You have to use a class here called alert dismissible class So notice that beside the alert, which is the spacing, alert warning, which is the color, you need to specify that the alert will be dismissible, that the user can dismiss it. Not only that, you will put fade and show. Fade and show will affect the animation effect, because when the user dismiss this alert, it will fade away. It's not going to immediately disappear. To make it to work, you need a button, and this button will get a class, and this class is called PTN close, and this is automatically will show you that times icon. So the PTN close, that will give you the icon. It will identify to Bootstrap that this is a closing button. You don't need to put anything or any content inside this button. And you have data PS dismiss, and you're dismissing an alert. Okay, so let's create a dismissible button. Let's create an error button. Let's have a div alert danger, and alert dismissible. That's it. That's the container. That's what I need here for a container. Also, I want to specify the animation. It's going to be fade. And initially, I want to show it. So you put show. Then you can put our, let's get the icon. I want to get this icon, but I don't know what is the name for it. This icon right here. Let's search for it. Error. Have tons of icons right here. Triangle. Nope.
Maybe alert.
Hmm?
Maybe you can search it alert.
Let's all. Nope. We can actually, you know what? We can copy the SVG from here. And let's take a look at the SVG. Oh, it's right here. That should be the name for it. Here we go. Exclamation triangle fill. And I copy this I tag. And I want to add it right here. And I want to have a span. Get a class. Let's do font weight, bold, and say something like, please provide username, something like that. Okay. Now, if you take a look here back, that since we're using dismissible, I need to have a button. And this button will have a class PTN close button. You don't add any text, just class PTN close. And if you take a look right now, open with the live server, I already got this X bind here. Good. I want to make this icon a little bit bigger. So for the icon font size, let's do font size number 4. Good. And if you want to align them correctly, you can turn this to a flex container and align items center. It will be centered, and you can control the space right here by adding margin to the end. Let's add 5. So we have the icon, please provide a username. Here, the button is not going to work by itself. You can click on it, nothing going to happen because you didn't add the JavaScript. You just add the styling for it with the class. To add the JavaScript, which is the second component here, you need to add the data PS dismiss, and you set its role to dismiss the alert. So data PS dismiss, and you want to dismiss the alert. And that should make it work. Let's give it a try. Here we go. It's faded. Notice that it's faded and was removed. If you refresh the page, it's there. You click here, and this alert message is removed. You can, this is actually work very nice if you go to the utilities and you go with the utility that you have position, because we have, if you're familiar with the CSS position, you have classes to do the position, and you have position static, position relative, position absolute, position fixed. Let's say I want to position it fixed. I want to put it to the up right of my screen. I want to show my alert in the up right of my screen. And then you can have the top, start, bottom, and end. So top, there is no left and right. It's top, start, bottom, and left. And you have some examples here. Top 0, start 0, top 0, and 0. It could be 0 or 50 or 100. These are the 3 values. Okay, so let's turn this alert that I want to position it to be fixed, and I want to be top 0 and 0. And if you take a look now, it will be positioned at the top of my screen and showing the alert right here. Of course, you can add a margin to the whole thing, like margin size 2. And now you have nice alert box at the top of the screen that can be pop up when the users, and you click here and it will be disappearing. So definitely it worked perfect with the position utility. Okay, that's all for the alert or all the classes. I try to go in details, showing you dismissible, how you can use the icons with the alerts, because you're probably going to need to use the icons with the alert. Show you the Bootstrap icon library as well. Okay, now let's see what is the next component that we're going to go over. So let's go to components. So alert, let's go over pages. And a page is simply, if you have like a email, you can add a notification. Well, it's not a notification, it's a page. That's what a page is. It just mainly use it for showing numbers. If you go, for example, in your phone and you see the mail, you're probably going to have like a circle after this mail showing you how many mails you have. That's what a page is. To create a page is very simple. You use the page and then the color of the page. But the size of the page, it depends on the wrapping element. Notice here we have an H1, so the size of the page is very big. If you have an H6, size of the page will be small. You can have the badge inside a bind. So you have a page inside a bind. You show how many notification. You can position the page, for example, here you have a button. You want to show that you have, let's say that this is your inbox. You have a total of 99 plus. Here they do it position relative for the button, and they do it position absolute for the page. In order to put it to the top and at the start, translate to the middle, they translate it to these are classes, utility classes, but they're using the page and rounded pill to make it rounded pill. And they give it a background color of danger, and they put anything inside. This here, or this pen, is mainly for screen readers, because if the user is using a screen reader, he's not going to be able to see the page. So that's why you have a class called visually hidden, and the screen reader will read unread messages for the user that have some disabilities and he surfing the web through screen reader applications. Here starts, translate to the middle, have some padding, danger. You can also replace the page class with a few other utilities. Here they didn't do page at all, but they show this notification without the page. You have multiple color. To use a pillar, you need the rounded pill class. Okay, so we learned about all of them. Let's put it in an example. We know what is the classes that we're going to use. Page.html. Let me get the index. Let's say I want to have two pages. One, a mail icon or a mail button was going to use an icon not similar to the example that they have that will show the unread messages. And I will have another example to show an avatar for a user with an online page with a check icon. So this is the two examples that I want to do using the page. Of course, not only the page, but here, these are the two examples that I want to do. Okay, so for the first one, it's going to be very simple. Let's get the icons as well. So we get the CDN for the icons. Go for the icons, go all the way down. Copy the CDN and paste it right here. Because I'm going to use the mail icon. So I'm going to have a button, and this button will be simply PTN primary. And let's do the text to be light, because I want the icon inside it to be light. And you can get the mail icon. You can search for mail. And this is the envelope. Copy it and paste it right here. Open it to the live server. I have this button with the mail. Actually, I want the filled. So I'll get back. And I'm gonna the envelope fill. Copy. And replace this. Notice that it just classes. That's what it is. That's what is an icon. So this is my button here showing a mail button. Let's put everything in a container. Margin top 5. Gonna put this button right here. Have the bind right here. And I want to add here like a page with the amount of unread messages to the spine here. And that's where we're going to use the page, and also we're going to use the position utility. But let's take our break right now. And once we get back from break, we're going to work in these two examples using pages. Any questions before we go to break? Anybody have a question in any of the codes that we developed so far, or anything that you don't understand? Okay, so I'll see you in 2 minutes. Okay, so we're going to continue with the page component. Let me share my screen. Okay, so that's what we got before the break. Just a button with an icon inside it. And now I want to add a page to it. So I can add the page. So I can have an element with a class page and add page danger. Let's say we have 5 emails. And if you save that, you will have it right here. Page danger. The color is not showing up. Let's see what, if I want the red color. I go down here. It's called PG, which is the background, not page danger. So you just control the background with PG danger. And if you save that, here we go. But now, if you wanted to style it this way, it's fine. It's look like a rectangle. But now I want to position it to the top right of my button. And to do that, very simple. We're gonna go right here. And for the button itself, we're gonna position it as relative. So position relative. And for the page, we're gonna position it absolute. So it's gonna be move relative to the button. So position absolute. Once you do that, you will see that the page jumped right here. So I can do top, set the top to be 0 and 0. And now I need to translate it. So it will be exactly at the end of this button. That's why you need the translate middle. Actually, we need the start 100. Let me change that to start 100. Before I actually translate, here we go. It's going to start at the end. And now I want to translate it up. Translate middle. And here we go. So if you want it to look like this, that's fine. But if you want it to be rounded, you can do rounded. You can just do rounded. Let's see how that's effect. Nope, it have to be rounded to pill. So it will be circle since it's only a single number. And that's, you can create that UI. You have an the mail icon, and actually I can increase the mail icon. Let me put it side by side instead of keep toggling between them. This icon here, I can make it bigger. You know the trick now, it's the font size. I can make it big too. And if you want this here to be bigger, the page, and instead of a div, you can use, for example, H3. That will control the size for it. H1. That's weird. Should be making it bigger, but we have other utility classes like font size, and I can make it font size 1, and that's definitely will change it. So let's make it font size 4 or font size 6. Here we go. So definitely we can control it here, and the button is clickable. If you want to get this UI, definitely you can. So pages are helpful to create that type of UI. Now let's get to the avatar. I want to get first an image. I will have a wrapper of a div. And then I'm going to have an image. And let's get search for random user. Image. you have this website that will give you images, randomuser.me. Click any user. You can go to the documentation. Seeds. Here we go. So you can go, this is the web page. You can select the gender as well. Let's copy this one here. Or let's get something like that. So the image here, I'm going to get a man image, 75. You can change that number to get the first person. But if you get back to your page, I get that person right here. Let me add horizontal ruler. Good. And for this div class, let's add M5. So I have this image right here. Now for Bootstrap, it have a couple classes to make the images responsive. So if you go, and you should find them in helpers or utilities. Visibility, colors, and you can search for images and responsive images. Notice that the class for an image to make it responsive is called image fluid. That will make the image responsive, especially if you have big images. But for our image here, if you want to have this border, you can use image thumbnail. In Bootstrap, there was a class to make it circle. Let's add the rounded. It's just going to make it rounded from the corner. Class. Rounded. Just going to round it to the corner. I think we can use rounded circle. Let's try. There you go. Make it circle because I want to make it as a circle. So I have this person right here. Let's say that this is the profile image for him. And I want to have here position relative. And I'm going to have my page. The class page with the background success. I don't have anything here, so I can put like 1 for now. You will have it right here. Good. So I want to position it absolute. Once you position it absolute, it should be to the top right here. And the way that I want it to be the bottom. So bottom 0. And it should be moved to the bottom. And I can do start 0 right here. I can translate to the middle. Let's actually to end 50. No, start 50. Nope. Let's actually revisit that position utility and select our positioning. So position, you get all of that. So I want bottom 50 and end 50. So that gets you, yeah, that should work. Bottom 50 and end 50. I remove the translate. I think I know why, because the div is a block level. Let's display it. Inline block. Here we go. Inline block. I want to limit the div will take the full width. That was causing the issue. Once I save it inline block, now this is exactly in the center. I don't want that. That's coming from the bottom 50. I'll set the bottom 0, and 0. Good. And we can set translate middle. Good. And now I want to make it to circle, indicating that this user is online. So I can do rounded pill. And here you have a circle. But also, I don't want to put a 1. I probably want to have an icon right here. So I can go search for an icon. So I go Bootstraps. Let's go to the icon. Let's get this check all mark, copy it. And I'm going to put it right here. So our page will have an icon. And here we go. I have the double check. I can control the size, font weight, say 4. That's actually, if you make a 1, that's going to be, oh, not font weight, font size. My bad. That's going to be a big icon. So let's make it font size 4. That will affect its position. If you want to get like very specific position, you can override the CSS and move it correctly here. Let's remove that. That's not bad. So here we go. We give an indication that the user is online. We can add a shadow if you want. So you're adding a shadow here, and let's add a shadow to the whole image. And I don't like the success color. So I can override that with a regular style here. Like I can do inline styling, background color, light, green. And I get the light green color, and you can actually hover over it, and Visual Studio will give you this palette, and you can select the color that you want. And you can change the color value. I'm going to change it to hex value. Save that. Okay, good. And now we have this page indicating that this user is online with the double check, and you can get any color that you want. Of course, it took us a couple of classes like the position class, display inline to make the block, or that whole div, and instead of a block level element to make it inline, block to make just take as much width as it can take. And again, you should have a good understanding of CSS. Know what is an inline element, what is a block level, what is an inline block element, how position work with CSS, how flex work, flexbox work before you start using these classes, because it's all based on a good understanding of CSS and how CSS work. Any question about these two examples? Okay. So let's move to the next component. So breadcrumb, you will use it if you have like a dashboard and you want to show where is your location from the dashboard, like you're in the home, then you go to the library and so on. Carousel. This is the close button. The close button is very simple. PTN close, we already saw that in the alert. Close PTN, and if you wanted to make it dismissible button, you have to add data-ps dot dismiss, and then you want to dismiss the alert. But it's very simple. Probably want to have the drop downs. We covered the navigation bar. Definitely we want to cover the carousel as well. Just trying to see what is the most important components that we're going to go over today. But let's do the breadcrumb real quick. Not all the applications you're going to need the breadcrumb. It's only if you're designing a dashboard. That's the only usage for a breadcrumb. So it will indicate to the user where is his location from the home page. And to use a breadcrumb, indicate the current page location with a navigation hierarchy that automatically add separator via CSS. In the first example here, you have a nav. It's a navigation. You have order list, and this order list will give it a class of breadcrumb. And then you have a breadcrumb item, and you can set it to active, and it just home. And notice that this is the active. This is how the active will look like with the gray color. If you want to create a hierarchy that now you're inside the library, that inside the home, you go list down. You're just simply using breadcrumb and then breadcrumb item, and you're gonna list them down, and you select which one is the active one. Okay, so here you're inside the data, that inside the library home, they go with the order. That's why you're using the order list. So let's create a simple breadcrumb. You can specify the divider. And to specify the divider, if you want to have this divider, it's a little bit hard because you have to go to this class. So you have to use this style and then specify any divider that you want. Okay. Okay. Let's give it a try. So just two classes mainly, breadcrumb and breadcrumb item. Breadcrumb. And let's get a copy of our boilerplate here, paste it right here. And let's do Bootstrap breadcrumb. And what I want to do, I want to have a nav. I will give it some classes. One of them is navbar. We already learned about navbar. And navbar, let's say light, BG light, background light. And also the navbar is going to be our breadcrumb. So you add the breadcrumb. No, you add it to the OL, it's fine. So let's open it. Here's the navigation bar. You don't see anything because I didn't add anything inside this navigation bar. I have an order list that with a class breadcrumb. And I'm going to start listing my items. And the first item that I'm going to list here should have a class of a breadcrumb item. And I'm going to add some icons to it. So I can go to the Bootstrap. I'm going to open a separate page here. Bootstrap, 5 icons. Let's get the click on the icons, get the CDN, because I want like the home icon, and then can copy this CDN. Paste it here. And I'm going to add it actually to be inside my boilerplate. So I don't have to keep going and get the CDN. Good. So what I want here, I want a home icon. So I'm going to search for home. And let's get this home. Copy this icon. And I'm going to say home, or have like an H6 home inside my list item. Or I can do it span, even better, because I want it to be right next to each other, and a span as an inline element, and style the span class as an H6. There we go. So I have the home. Good. And now I have another element. I'm not going to need the icon for it. And I want to say, let's say dashboard. And I had another icon. Reports. And this is going to be my active item. So I can add an active. And here we see that it turned to be gray color. And now it tells you the exact, what is this page located. So you're adding this, this breadcrumb here. This is the default divider. But if you want to change the divider, if you read from the documentation here, for the dividers, you can add a styling tag, the style tag, where --bs breadcrumb -divider, colon any spread, any, or you can add any divider that you want. Let's see if that's going to work or not. Here we go. It's working. I can even make it backslash. Not sure why it's backslash not working. So this is working. If I change it to the other direction, it's working. Oh, backslash because you need to escape it. Here we go. You can make it // or backslash. So you can say change the divider here with this style, which is -- breadcrumb divider, and it's a style. You pass it as a style to the wrapper of the breadcrumb. Okay, very simple, especially it's very helpful if you programming like a dashboard and the user navigating through the dashboard, you want to show him where's his location. It's from the home page. And you can add multiple icons here as well. Okay, so now we went over the cart. The next item will be the carousel. And carousel are very good to create carousels. You can have a carousel here that will have multiple images with no controls. Here you can have controls to get back to the previous image, next image, and so on. You can have an indicators, and you have the indicators here. Also, you can use them for control. You can have some caption on the images. And you have crossfade, which is different animation. And instead of sliding them, or you're not going to use like, it's not going to be as a slider. So the images are not going to slide over each other. Okay. You have dark variant, and that's we'll consider to be one of the complex as the navigation bar, because it's have so many components and so many classes, but let's try to break them down. Let's start very simple with the just simple slide. Well, or the slider by itself, the carousel. You need a wrapper for the whole carousel. And this wrapper should have the carousel class. Beside the class, you define that it's going to be slide because it's going to be slide the images on top of each other. You don't need an ID actually for it, but then you have a wrapper here for the inner items, because the inner items will be the images, the indicators later on when we get the indicators. It's called the carousel inner, which is going to be the inner content. And we can start adding the image, but the images need to be wrapped, each image here with carousel item. And if the first one is going to be the active one, that's going to be the default image that's going to be shown in this slider. And for the images, you can display the image as a block. And here W100, W means width, and it's a utility class. 100 means 100% of its parent, and the parent is the carousel item, and it will make sure that the image will always take the width of the carousel. So we have the carousel items that should be inside a carousel inner wrapped by carousel. For the JavaScript, that's the part for the JavaScript. You need the data bootstrap ride is equal carousel. So let's create a very simple carousel. And let's get this boilerplate, copy it. And I'm going to have here a container that I'm going to have margin top with the size 5 or 4, it doesn't matter. I'm going to have an H1 here and say simple carousel. So we need a wrapper, which is the carousel. And we want the class slide to be like a slider. We also want class margin bottom here. Let's add some margin 3. And you know that the JavaScript part, all you need to do is just data PS ride to be carousel. And that's it. Here we need to have the inner or the carousel inner. And inside the inner, we're going to start defining the carousel items. So carousel item. And the first item here is an image. And we can get images from Unsplash. So let's get some couple images. Unsplash.com. Now let's say I have, let's pick a couple images. So let's get this image, copy image address. Let's view work. Okay, for the image itself, I'm going to have a couple classes. We can do image fluid to make it responsive and add the width 100. And for the first image will be the active image by default. And now I can copy this image multiple times. Let's say we have 3 images and get 2 other images as sources. So let's get 2 other images. Even here they're using carousel. Look like a nice image here. Open it. I don't know why it's a little bit slow. Copy address. Copy the image address here. Now let's get this image. These are sponsored. Not sure what sponsor means. Okay. Let's copy this image. Okay. Now let's open this with the live server. And I have my carousel here. And it should start sliding. Unless I did something mistake here. Let's go to the Bootstrap. This is carousel slide, carousel. Then I have the inner. So item. Oh, because I put all of them active. Showing the first image only. Okay, let's add the indicators. Now I added the images because the indicators will help me actually to navigate through the images. And to add the controllers here, I have two controllers. And they are simply two bindings that you add. So the first bind is going to be carousel control previous to control the previous image. And the next image is going to carousel control next. And here they're using JavaScript, which is data BS. And they have to point to the carousel that you controlling. And also you pass the data PS slide as a previous to indicate that this bind will be previous and this bind will be next. Also adding a span here for the icon because you want these two icons here. So this is the previous icon, carousel control previous icon, which is this icon. Carousel control next icon, which is this icon. You don't have, this is for screen readers. As you can see, visually hidden. It's not gonna, there's nothing visually to see. But for the person that who reading that from a screen reader, it will verbally tell him that there is a previous bind and there is a next bind. So let me start adding after the carousel inner. I'm gonna start adding my controllers, which is simply gonna be two binds that's outside the inner. So this is my inner div. And inner div here, I'm gonna add a bind. And this bind will have a class of carousel control. And let's have the previous control first. And we're gonna have this icon. You can copy the icon. Or you can copy the classes for this icon. You can use an I tag instead of span. Class. And to actually control the carousel, this carousel here, which is here, I'm gonna give it an ID. Let's say banner, or you can call it any name. Hero. It's like a hero screen. This button here will target this hero screen. So data.ps.target will target the hero carousel and data ps slide. You want to slide to the previous slide. So you pass previous. Let's get back. Here you see this bind. And it's actually controlling the images. So now I can go previous. Now I want to add the same thing for the next item or the next image. You can copy this bind. And instead of previous, it's going to be next. It's still pointing to the same hero page. And you want to go to the next. And you want the next icon. If you save that, you should have this icon right here. So I have the two icons. Can go backward, can go forward. Nice. So that's how you can add your controller. The carousel inner will have the images, and you have two buttons for the controls here. Now let's add the indicators with indicators. Actually, this is with a caption. Let's add this indicators here that indicate which image that actually currently active is the third one, the second one, or the first one. You need to wrap them with carousel indicators. So it's a wrapping div that you call it carousel indicators. And these are mainly three buttons because they can control which image to be active. They're targeting the same carousel, so the target have no problem. That appears slide, and instead of slide -2, you want to take, they go with the index. The first one is going to be index 0, index 1, and index 2. And initially, the first one will be active. Okay, so definitely we can add that before our carousel inner. We can have a carousel, a div with a carousel indicators. And we can add indicators as buttons. I'm going to do buttons, it's fine, or we can use it as list items. Or I'm going to do buttons, it's fine. Fine. There's no styling for them. There's no classes. Okay. So here, I'm going to add a button. This button, not going to have any text. It should target my carousel, which I give it a name hero. So data-ps target hero data-ps slide to, on a slide to the image with the index 0. And it should be the class active because it's the first one. And if I save now, I should see now one indicator right here. I want to copy it multiple times, 3 indicators, since I have 3 images. They target the same carousel, which is going to change now the index of the images. So index 1 pointing to the second image, index 2 pointing to the third image, and it's only the first one is active initially or by default when the page gets loaded. And if you save now, here you have 3. If I click on the second one, take me to the second image, third image, and I still can use the controller. If I use the controller, it will give me indication which image is active right now. Cool. Let's now talk about the caption, how we can add captions to the images. Let's say I want to have some text at the bottom of the image. You can add caption by simply whatever text you want to add. It's going to be wrapped after the image. I'm going to put it after the image with a carousel caption. Probably you don't want to show them in small screen. So when you see D none, that's mean from very small screen, don't show it. However, start showing them from display medium block. So starting from a medium screen and up, show this. Because again, if you're in small screen, it's going to be really hard to read this caption. And then you can add your caption right here. So let's add a couple of captions. So I'm going to have here carousel caption. And you can add anything you want. Like let's see what is our first image here. Let's say H1 city image, and have some like paragraph for them. Dummy text. And let's have a horizontal ruler. There you go. You have the city image, and you have some caption right here. Second image don't have any caption. If you want to hide this in a small screen, you can do that by simply D-none. D-none, that means it will be hidden from small screen all the way to up. So if you go, doesn't matter if you're a small screen or a bigger screen, but you want to show them back by D, medium screen. You want to display it as a block. So now on a small screen, you don't see any caption. If you go to a bigger screen, you will see the caption right here at the bottom. And you can add caption here. Let's say for the second one, I will add fireworks. Be displayed medium screen and up. Here we go. And the last one, I can add a caption. Anything you want. Sunset. Oh. I need the wrapper. Oh. If you want to have that type of effect, which is the crossfade, you use the carousel fade on the carousel. That's how simple it is. So I can add here fade. You know, they're not going to be sliding anymore. They're going to be fading, which is a nice effect. And it's going to be automatically. So if I didn't click in anything, they have a timer and they should change the images. See, now it's showing the second image. Not sure what is the timer, how many seconds, but probably after every 3 seconds, it automatically will cycle through the images. But that's for the carousel. There's of course multiple other classes that you can use, but that's the very basic classes that you should need to know about. Let's take a look at the collapse. Collapse, it's pretty much similar to the accordion. So if you want to use that, you probably can use the accordion. Drop downs, on the other hand, they are very helpful. You're probably going to use them in a menu. You can have drop down here. You can add divider. So that's another component that we can cover it next. I'm going to go drop downs, modals. Hopefully we'll go over popovers, spinners. So we have a couple of other components that we can go over that we definitely going to need before the project tomorrow. But let's talk about the drop downs. So I'm going to create a new file. Drop down .html. Let's copy right here and paste all the CDNs. I will have a container. And for the container, I'm going to have margin top 5. And let's take a look at how to do a simple close it instantly. Boot. You can search for the item right away. So you can do Bootstrap 5. Make sure you put the 5 drop down. And that will give you to the exact page of the drop down. Here is a simple drop down. You simply have a wrapper that's called drop down. Then the button that will be visible here. Then PTN secondary, that's for the color of the button and the spacing of the button. But now to make this button will trigger the drop down, you have to give it this class, drop down toggle. Okay. Then you have an order list with all the items that you want to show in this list here. So action, if you have an empty list item, that means probably going to need a divider. And to add a divider, here the classes to give this list item is drop down item. The UL is the drop down menu. To have a divider, it's going to be drop down divider. So drop down will have a list. That's the menu that's included in the drop down. You have drop down item, and you can have drop down divider. For the button itself, it will be the toggler for the drop down. So it will be drop down toggle. To connect everything together, you need to target down. No, you don't need to the target. Just the toggling. Remember, in the navigation bar, the toggle was collapsed. Here, the type is drop down. That's the difference. So you have to specify what type of animation or what type of toggling that you're doing. You're doing a drop down in that case. Okay, let's give it a try. Let's use a section with drop down. Add our button. Let's do PTN primary color. And you can use like a PTN small if you want to size it. This is going to be the drop down toggle. And I'm going to specify here my list. I'm going to use unordered list, drop down, dash menu. That's my menu. And I can have a list item, drop down item. Let's say profile and settings. Actually, I need to close this button. It should be not a wrapping element. You close the button here. Let's say here, John Doe. Let's say that this is name or login name settings. And I want to say log out. And I want to add a divider here. So it's an LI with a drop down divider. And let's open this with the live server. So I have John Doe. Notice that automatically we'll have this icon indicating chevron down. That's indicating that when you click on it, it's a drop down button. Click on it. It's now working because I didn't add the type of the toggle, which is data PS toggle equal drop down. Let's give it another try. Here we go. Have the profile, the settings, and logout. And it's toggling. If you click on it, it will hide this menu. Okay, of course, there is other types of drop downs. We gotta go over them, but this is like the very basic one here. Any question before we go to break about the drop down or any of the components that we cover. Okay, so I'll see you in a minute. Let's go take our second break. And after the break, we get back to the drop down, add multiple drop down, and let's take like a real life example. Okay, see you in 2 minutes. Okay, guys, so we're going to continue. The last component we was talking about before the break was the drop down. Let me share my screen. Well, let's see what is the other types of drop downs menu. So by default, you will have this chevron pointing down, and the drop down menu will open downward. You can use a link inside here, and you will notice you get the hover over effect automatically. You can color the binds, and you can add a divider, and I show you that the class called drop down divider. You can have a split bind. Notice that the bind text can click and do something, and then you have a split inside the bind for the drop down. To have it split like this, you need a PTN group to have a bind group, and you need to group, and then you have in the PTN group, you actually have two binds. The first bind, regular bind. The second one, it's going to be your drop down menu. So let's take an example here. So I have an item, then I will create a splitting bind. Here you also can control the size, and we did that controlling the size. You can change the background, drop down menu dark, that will control the color. So if I go back here, by default, you get this light color. If you want to change the background, you go to the UL, drop down dark, drop down menu dark. Now, if you click here, it will be dark. And I don't think you can select any other color. Let's do primary. Nope, it's just dark, and the default is light. So if you have two different like light and dark themes. Okay, just gonna put this here so you know that. And now let's do the split bind. So I will have a div or a section, doesn't matter, with the PTN group. So I'm creating a group. I will add my first bind inside the group bind. Give it a regular classes, PTN, PTN. Let's do success bind. And I will say here, success. And let's add some margin to the Y direction, top and bottom, MY2. And now let's add a split bind, or let's add the drop-down menu bind. That will be class, still PTN, PTN, success. And we can add the drop-down toggle. It's a little bit bigger here. Drop-down toggle. Let's add the JavaScript part, data, PS toggle, drop-down. Let's see what I'm doing wrong here for the split binds, PTN group. This is not a split bind. This is a split bind. Here we go. That's the class we're missing, which is drop-down toggle split. And that will size it correctly based on the PTN group. So drop-down toggle split is the class that I need right here. And I get back. Still big. Let me copy this part. Let me remove the area. This is red. Probably because I added the margin here. Yep, it's because of the margin. Probably need to add the margin right here. Margin Y2 right here. I want this to be not danger, success. And now this is clickable and this is also clickable. And I have that split inside the button. Good. Now I can add my list and I can copy the list, same list that I have right here. And of course, I don't want it dark, so I can remove the drop-down menu, dark. And it's not going to work. Have this drop down. Let's see what I'm doing wrong here. Data toggler. That's inside the BTN group. Drop down menu, items. Format the document to see it better. I have an error here. You see the prettier show me that I have an error. Well, let's see what is the error. You can confirm that if you try to format it. Let's see, where is the error? Let me remove this UL. I see, I find it, that this button, I didn't have a close tag for it. That's why it's causing the issue. So this button here, now the prettier shouldn't be. Here we go. Now the prettier not showing any error, and I can copy this menu. And it should work perfect. Click here, and you have your menu coming from the side. Okay, so that's it for the drop down. You can check the list, the rest of the properties. Next, let's talk about the modal. It's a very important component, and we're going to use it a lot to have a modal or like a notification. So you click here, you get like a modal. And the modal, it's a little bit, I'm not going to say complex, but to create a model, you need something that will trigger the model. So usually you have a button that will trigger the model or a link. Here we have a button that PTN primary, the PS toggle, the type here model. As you can now get familiar with different types, you have the collapse, you have the slide, and here we have the model, and we have the drop down. So it's data PS toggle, and it will toggle the model, and you can define the model here. And this model, whatever the model you're defining, it's not going to show initially because this button is controlling it. Notice that this button is targeting this model. You give it an ID, and you pass the model ID right here. So only when the user click the button, this model will show, and it will have that, you see here in the background will have like an overlay, get dark, and you have this miss button right here. So take a class model, and the animation here is fade. You give it an ID, it's very important. Then you have a class model dialog that could have a content, and this content could have a header, and you add a title, and you inside the title here or inside your header, you have the button with class PTN close, where the user can close this model, and this the PS dismiss, you want to dismiss a model. Then you could have your body, and then you could have your footer. Okay. Good. Getting familiar with this classes. Now let's take an example how you can actually have a model. Let's do 07 model .html. And gonna get up on my boilerplate here, copy it. And what I want to do is I want to have a navigation bar. So I'm going to have a nav bar. I want to have a dark navigation bar, nav bar, dark, and the BG dark. And inside my navigation bar, I'm not going to do it as a fully responsive navigation bar for now. But inside my navigation bar, I will have an A tag or a link that will take a class name, navbar brand. Let's say here, this is going to be my logo, whatever. I can call it my app. And I'm going to wrap everything here inside a container. And if you open that with the live server, here we go. We have a simple navigation bar. Dark, you have my app. And here on the other side, I want to add a button. And I want to call it login. And this is going to be my trigger to open the model or to create a model with a login form. So I will have here inside the container a div, navbar, nav, and it should start MS auto to push it all the way to the right. And right here, I'm going to have a button. I'm going to give it a class nav item or PTN warning and say login. If you save that, so you have the login button here. And I want this button, when the user clicking it, I will have a model with animation to give me the login form. And the login form, actually, it's going to be a model. So I can define it completely outside the navigation bar. So here, my model. You will need, I can create it as a section with a class model. And inside the model, I will have the model dialog like that. And in the model dialog, I will have the model content. And in the content, I can have a header. So I will have model header. And I want the header to have like a PG dark and text center. Can do PG primary, text light, and we'll have an H5. This is the header, and this is going to be the model title. And let's say login. And now I want the button that will be able to close this model. So it's dismissible button. Give it a class PTN close data PS dismiss. And I want to dismiss the model. And now to connect this model with this button, I need to give this model an ID. let's say login. So the ID here is login. So this bind here, data, PS, toggle, it's going to be responsible to toggle a model, data, PS, target, which model that it will be toggling. It will be the login model. So you'll add the hashtag login. Let's give it a test. And you see here, notice that the background now is have an overlay. You click, the model disappear. You want it to fade, so you add the class fade. So add to add a little animation. And now notice it's like fading, gets give like animation showing from top bottom. I'm not sure we can actually center this text. Let's give it a try. Text center. Nope. I know that some of them they are fixed and they are tweaked like important. Okay, if you actually want to center it, you can use style, text align, center, and you have to pass an important. And that will force Bootstrap to center this text. Let's respect. Line height. It's actually not taking effect here. Okay, anyway, I'm not going to center it. I think the reason for that, because we have this bind, and this bind always have to be on the right side. So if you center this, it will mess with the layout of this bind. But now it's working. I can continue now adding a form right here. So after my header, which is end right here, I want to add a model body. And in the model body, I will have a simple form. There's no action. And I will have an input field with a type text, class, form control. And I can add the placeholder, username. And also I can add a class here, my3. Let's see. Here you go. I got the username. And let's add the password, which is pretty much the same thing. Just change here. Instead of text, password. Add a password. Good. I want to add, now I want to have the footer for the model. This is the body. So you can have a model footer. And for the footer, I'm going to add a button that I will add a PTN primary, and say login. And I will have a close bind to close the model. And since this bind will be closing the model, it will be data PS dismiss, and we want to be able to dismiss this model. And I want to show it as danger bind. So here you can log in, you provide the username and you provide the password, log in, or you can close the model from here. I have an extra S right here. Close. Oh, model. Close. Closing the model, you can either close it from this bind and you can provide the username. So it's a simple login form, it will show you that you can have a button as a trigger. You click in this button, you get the model, and you get the animation effect of the model coming from the Bootstrap library. And you can have the overlay for the background. If you click anywhere in the background, it should dismiss the model. Okay. So as you can see, very simple to use Bootstrap. No, to get the same effect with just using CSS, it's going to be a lot of work and a lot of CSS to write. But with Bootstrap, it's very simple. Okay, you can have different variants of models as well. Let's now talk about toasts. You can have this type of toast. It's also a different way of notifications. So you can show a toast here. You can make it dismissible. You can stacking multiple toasts, showing like the time here. It will show a notification. Think about it like a model combined with alert. So for a toast, it will require as well a trigger. Like here's the trigger, you click on it, you will have the toast showing down there. And you should have the button. Here, regular button, PTN primary. And you control this toast by positioning. So we position it fixed to the bottom, to the end here. The class is toast hide. You have a toast header and toast body. So you have the header and the body, and you could have a footer if you want. And then you design whatever the header that you want right here. Here they have an image, rounded. This image is technically this blue color because it's rounded. Then you have the word Bootstrap, and you have 11 minutes. And the type, you have the dismissible button right here. Okay, let's try to design this, something like that. So 08 toast.html, copy, and I'll have a container. Margin top 5, gonna have a button. But my main concern is how it's get connected. Because this button here is not connected with this div. Okay, let's give it a try. Button class PTN primary. Create toast. And right here, we're gonna have the toast, which is a div toast.hide. Which is toast on hide here. We don't need the area. We can give it a class, which is, we'll give it an ID. Live toast. It's fine. I don't need the ID here. We can add a wrapper to position it correctly. So here we can add a position. And we can do top 0 and 0. we're going to add a margin of 2 and padding of 2. And we're going to add inside this wrapper that our toast. Then you start with the toast header. Let's make now toast header. Let's just add a simple h1. Hello world. Add a toast body. I doubt this is going to work because it's not connected, but we'll see. Let's format. Let's open it, the live server. Click here, nothing going to happen. I'm pretty sure that this is the case. If I can go down here, we can be smart, get our snippet ps5 dash toast default. I think I know what is the problem is. Let's get back to our example. Let's read the documentation, how to connect them. See here, that's saying that you must initialize them yourself. Toast will automatically hide if you didn't specify auto hide. Okay, how to initialize them? You go to the usage, and you will see that it have JavaScript code right here. And this JavaScript code will be responsible for technically do the initialization. So I can copy this code and I can add a script tag here. And technically it will add a toast list. So gonna call the document, search for all the toasts, give you a list, and it will generate this toast list. Let's give it a try. No. New Bootstrap. You need toast show. You need toast show and you need toast height. Okay. So this button here, I can do on click toast dot show. Let's console log my toast list here, just to get an idea what we get in the toast list. Option is not defined. I'm not passing an option. Okay. Here's my toast. I get a reference to that element. Okay, not sure after I receive the So you need to initialize all of them. Okay. Creating a new toast. Toast show. Let's do toast. It's not defined. So I can let toast to require a little bit. I think that the alert is much simpler than creating the toast. Here, it would require to add multiple JavaScript. I'm just going to access my list, the first item, since I have only one item after I initialize it. And now this toast should have the show, I believe, since I initialize it. Let's see if I get an error here. Toast.show. It's not a function. Okay. What I can do is, instead of initializing this way, let toast is equal document dot query selector. I'm going to select my element as toast. And this element been selected in this variable. It needs to be initialized by new bootstrap.toast. You gonna pass the element right here. Console. Log the toast to see all the methods attached to this object. So I got here the toast. You see here you have some prototypes, hide, show. So you have the hide method and you have the show method, and you have some properties attached to this object that's what generated. So I can do toast dot show. And again, that's what it's not out of the box. You need to here it will show it, and it will show my toast. If you want to connect it with this bind, then you have to get hold in the bind, let ptn equal document dot query selector, since we have a single bind. And again, I don't know what is your level in JavaScript, but I'm sorry to add some JavaScript here because it don't get connected with the regular Bootstrap JavaScript. But now with the btn, you can add an click listener. When you get click, you simply want to execute the toast dot show. And here we're going to show it. Something wrong with the positioning because we should position fixed. There you go. So we can add it to the bottom of the screen. There you go, showing the toast. If you want to click here and you want to hide it, it will require some JavaScript skills. You can create a variable, show that initially it's false. If show is false, then you want to toast.show. And you want to make the show equal, toggle its value, make it the opposite. So instead of it's false, it will be true. Actually, I'm gonna take this out. I'm gonna write it much better code. Else toast dot hide. Want to hide it, and either or I will always toggle it by show is equal opposite value of show. So if it's true, I will turn it to false. If it's false, I will turn it to true, and that should toggle it. Have an error here. Yep, missing a parenthesis. Showing, hiding, showing, and hiding. And again, this component is required some work, and you will see all the how you can initialize it and all the methods that's related to this component, like show, hide. You can do dispose, how you can select the element from the DOM. Probably going to have multiple toasts, and that's why they have it as query selector all. Okay, but as an alternative, you can style the alert to look exactly as a toast. Let's talk about different component, and let's talk about spinners. Spinners probably one of the easiest components in Bootstrap. You have multiple types of spinners. Spinners here, color spinners. You need spinner border, and that's the type of the spinner. And you pass the color of the text. So it's not the background color, it's the text color. So if it's primary, you will have like a blue spinner. And probably you want to use the spinners if you're fetching content from a server and it's been delaying, and there's sometimes and you want to show the user that it is loading. And they are nice. You have here growing spinner, which is spinner grow. It's a different type. Here, spinner border and spinner grow. You can add them in the flex to center it in the middle of the screen. You can have sizes, spinner border SM, spinner border, it's going to be large. This is small. I can also, you can add them inside of buttons. You can have this buttons with glowing or grow spinners. So let's add a spinner. Container. And the first type here, H1, is going to be the border spinners. And for the border spinners, I will have div with a class spinner border. And that's going to be the full color by black. If you open it with the live server, it's going to be the black color. If you want to add colors, you can add text primary. You can add text success, danger, warning, any color that you want. And you have your spinners. So that's the first type of spinner. And I think you can control the font size. Let's say font size 1. Make it actually thicker. Let's try the font weight. I don't think the font weight will affect anything bold. Nope. It's the font size that will make it thicker. Now let's talk about the second type, which is H1, grow spinners. It's going to be spinner-grow. If you save that, you have the grow spinner. To change its colors, text primary, text success, text danger. There you go. We have growing spinners, which is pretty cool. Okay. Another component that could be very, very helpful is going to be the tooltip. Keep in mind that Bootstrap, behind the scene, using popover or popper library, and you can have this popover, but it will require a little bit. So when pop over here, you click on it, you'll have this popover. You can get the same from tooltip. Tooltip here, when you hover over an element, popover is the difference when you click. So here it's going to give you like a nice tooltip, and you can control if you want the arrow or not. And it's easier to simply to enable it. You need just the JavaScript code. There's nothing that you need to do to it. You copy it and paste it, and you'll have this nice effect of, and you can control, you want the tooltip from the top, from the right to the bottom to the left, and you can add an HTML. Okay, so here's our button. We pass data PS toggle tooltip. So this button have a tooltip. And you have data PS placement. Here you specify you want it from the top, you want it from the bottom. You specify where exactly the tooltip will appear. If you put it top, it will appear at the top. Which I don't like that they put right and left here. If you stick into the convention start and end, you should right to be in end and left to be should be start. You can add an HTML and notice that whatever text is going to appear in this tooltip, you add it to the title. Keep that in mind. Okay, so let's take an example. Let's create a nice example for tooltip. I will get copy of the index. And let's add a container. Let's get an image. Copy this image. So that's the source. Let's take a look. It's a big image. What I can do is I can add a column here of, notice I'm adding a column without a row just to resize from medium screen up, and I want to take half of the screen. And I'm going to put the image inside this column. It's going to be medium and up. It's going to be half of the screen. Good. Let's make it 3. To actually add the row. And the image here, let's add a class with 100 to be 100% of its parent. Good. That's good. So this is the image. Let's add margin top here, 5. And let's add a class image thumbnail. So it will be thumbnail. And also let's add a shadow, small shadow, the image. And now when I hover over the image, I want to show some text, okay, or some content. What I can do is, as you can see here, and instead of our button, we're having this image. I need the toggle for this image. Data dash PS toggle. It's going to be tooltip. That's 1. 2, for this image, I want data.ps, the second component from JavaScript, placement. And I want to place it from the right. I'll add title, phone, app, just to test. It's not going to work by default because you need to initialize it using this code. So you can copy this code, and in your body, you can add a script tag. And once you save it, you just copy and paste it in your script. You get back to your here, and when you hover over it, you'll see phone app. And you have a tooltip over this image. Tooltips, they are pretty cool because now we can add some HTML in the title here. And as a matter of fact, I don't want to add it here because adding HTML in this text will be hard. It's better to do it in the JavaScript here. So I want to get hold in this image. It's constant image document. And you can, since we have one image, we can query selector, the image tag. And this image, I want to set an attribute. And I want to set the attribute title to a variable that I'm going to have over here. Let HTML. And I can put a backticks and put any HTML code that I want over here. So I can have an H5. You can even have an H5 with a class text center, phone, app, H5, having horizontal ruler, have a paragraph, was developed by John Doe. Close the paragraph, and let's add an image for that person. Add a source, and we go to the page and get the person image for that Mr. John Doe here. And I can add a style for the width to be 200 pixels. I'm gonna have a div here. This div, I'm gonna put everything centered in the middle. Close my div. So now I have HTML code. In order to write it in a multi-line, I'm using the backticks and instead of a single quotation. And now I'm going to set the attribute for this image, the title attribute, in that case to be the HTML. And I can execute that actually before I initialize, or I don't think it's going to be a problem. Let's give it a try. Nope. I have to set the title attribute before I initialize all of them. Let's see if we have anything in the JavaScript in error. Title is not defined, of course. It should be a string. Clear the error, refresh. It's showing the HTML code, but it's not rendering it. Let's see why it's not rendering it. Here. Okay. Let's copy this. Let's add the title here. Just let's test it with an H1. Hello. And let me comment this for now. So I'm adding an HTML code. It's not parsing it. Data PS. This is the one that we have to set. Data PS HTML, we have to set it to true. So I can remove that. And now I save, uncomment what I have in the bottom. There you go. See, you have a nice hover over effect when you select in this phone. It will tell you that the phone app was developed by John Doe and give you the image of the person who developed it. And you can actually add some classes. Bootstrap classes as well. So rounded circle. Which is pretty cool effect. And you can control the placement. So for example, the placement here, instead of the right, I can make it to the bottom. And you will have this hover over effect. It will be hidden until you hover over this specific image. Okay, I'll stop right here. If anybody have a question, I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions. I see that we went over a lot of components like the carousel, the drop down, the models, but all of these components are very important. And tomorrow class, we can actually gonna build project, and we're probably gonna have more time to build multiple projects by putting all these components together and build the full project. Sure, go ahead, Sylvia. You have a question? I think it's going to be on the YouTube, so it's going to be loaded to the YouTube. So if you go to Clarusway YouTube, yesterday class session was uploaded to the YouTube, and today class, it's actually live. It's streamed live on the YouTube right now, and it should be ready after the class. Just go to the playlist in the Clarusway YouTube channel, and you will find the videos for today and yesterday.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Also, it's gonna, Mr. Barry actually posted that it will be included inside the LMS. So if you have access to the LMS, you can access the videos from the LMS and the YouTube as well. So Chris, to answer your question, the project tomorrow, we're gonna build a landing page, multiple landing pages. One of them is gonna be Clarusway landing page, where we're gonna use the accordion, the navigation bar, multiple of utilities like Flex utilities, but to get landing page together. And that's most of the Bootstrap that you can use, like a landing page. Probably if we have time, we're going to build another landing page with a carousel that have some modules where you can show some models and some notifications for the users. I'll try to not use a lot of JavaScript. I don't know what is your background in JavaScript, but this is not a course about JavaScript. It's mainly focused about the UI or the user interface. Hope to answer your question, Chris. Any other questions? Sylvie, go ahead.
Will there going to be another section for JavaScript?
That's going to be in, as a mini bootcamp. I think JavaScript, it's part of our front end module. So our front end module will cover JavaScript, React. All if you was attending yesterday, we give a introduction and actually can go over that. So for the people that wasn't here yesterday, I don't have. Just 1 second. Let me pull from my Slack.
Okay.
Close everything. So yesterday in the yesterday class, we give introduction about Clarusway bootcamps, and that we located who we are as a Clarusway bootcamp, that we ranked top level in multiple of course evaluation like course report, and we covered the teaching models like the LMS, and that you will get full mentoring, and we have full management system, and the mentoring, we have a great either instructors or TAs that will help you and guide you through your process. We have a full stack, and this full stack is separated to front end and a back end. For the front end, these are the types of technologies that you will learn, and the back end, these are the back end technologies. But for the mini bootcamp, it just only the Bootstrap. But as different modules, here you have 3 different modules. Module 2 is mainly the front end, where you learn about React, TypeScript, HTML, JavaScript, and CSS from the scratch. Also, you learn about Next, Sass, multiple technologies, including Bootstrap. And for the backend, you will learn more about backend technology like databases, building server with Node.js, which is becoming very popular now. It's one of the best technologies. It's extremely fast to handle data and do CRUD operation using Node.js and Express framework as well. But that's the breakdown of courses that Clarusway give. And here it will tell you what is the type of project of the full course. So to learn JavaScript, that's part of the full course, not the mini bootcamp. To answer your question. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, if no questions, I'll see you tomorrow. And if you have any other questions that you remember later on, feel free to post them in the class channel, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. Have a good night, guys.